questions that get asked, but just know that they're going to get missed as well, because we have, like, at the moment, a couple of thousand people on, so just understand that. And again, thank you so much, and help each other. Remember, we are a community. Help each other, listen to each other, make friends here. You guys should be connected. You guys should support each other. You guys lift each other up, give each other phone calls, and, have a good time. You guys have so many common interests. So just listen to each other, hear each other, and we'll create more settings for that and create some more great times for that. So enjoy the live setting here, and let's dive into this document. Okay, so where would you like to start?
Well, I think the pressing question we're getting from everybody is how to deal with employer mandates.
Yeah.
I would love to give people some information on that.
Great.
For starters.
Fantastic.
So the first thing that we're advising people to do, and I want to be really clear with everyone, everything I say here is for educational purposes only. I have the powers that be that want to take me out too. So, I want to make sure that what we're sharing here is information. What I'm really sharing is, this is what I would do. If I was in that situation, this is what I would do. As a business owner, I run the Energetic Health Institute, and we are a nonprofit organization, and we employ some incredible people, predominantly women, which we're very fortunate to have. And I told my team on Monday that we are going to issue them a notice of what all their rights are under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which protects employees against discrimination, especially on religious grounds. I educated them on that, and I said we will accept and approve every religious exemption that is submitted, because that's what a business is supposed to do, is to make you aware of your rights. And then for people who want to opt out, they have a right to opt out. And the opt-out is for religious exemption, and there is really no opportunity for me as a business owner to ask people to prove their faith. That's actually a violation of your rights. So if your employer has been asking you to get a letter from your pastor, that's a violation of Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. So you don't have to comply with that, and you shouldn't. Or I should say, I wouldn't. Now, what we are doing, though, is we've expanded this concept, Jonathan, and this is something that's going to be available, I'm hoping by tomorrow, on the new covidcon21.com website. That's covidcon21.com. That's our website for the conference that we have that's going off in October. Mega conference, lots going on, and so we hope you can be a part of that, covidcon21.com. So we'll have a lot of free information on there. What we've expanded, Jonathan, too, is saying the first thing that you should do in working with your employer is don't quit, number one. Number two, ask them questions. So we've put together our 15 questions that your employer, as the arbiter of the mandate, is required to answer in order to satisfy informed consent. And what's so interesting about these questions is that some of them the employer will not be able to answer. Some of them they will not want to answer. And when they don't answer even one of those questions, it means that the standards for informed consent have not been achieved. After your employer cannot answer these questions, that's when you submit your religious exemption. And to be clear, religious exemptions are not based upon your faith, or that they can't say, well, because you're Catholic, there is nothing in your faith that says that you shouldn't be inoculated. That's not what a religious exemption is. A religious exemption is very clearly just a strongly held personal belief that if you were to do something, it would violate your code of ethics, what you believe in. So it's just called religious exemption to throw people off, but it's really a more aptly named a personal belief exemption. Okay? So the process is really simple. Don't quit. Get into the 15 questions, and you send these 15 questions in via email. Never discuss it, because people can say that they never talked with you about it. And then go from there. Once the employer responds back and is unable to answer all those questions, say, okay, well, based upon the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's declaration, you are required to receive my Religious exemption, here it is. Here's my form. Do not fill out your own paperwork on your religious exemption. There are plenty of places like Perk Group that has wonderful templates for it. Go ahead and use it. But I would not use something from a state, or I would not use something from an employer, because we've seen some really funny monkey business going on with that, where they're calling exemption forms, Jonathan, they're calling them exception forms. And when you call something an exception form, there is really limited to no legal protection by it. So you want to make sure you sign an exemption form and you submit it in. And what you notify your employer of is, because they failed to satisfy informed consent by answering the questions, you are exercising your right under, based upon the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's ruling over the summer, to submit your religious exemption form, and that based upon Title VII, which is consistent with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that you cannot be discriminated against based upon your religion. So they don't have a right to ask you to prove your religion, and they have to accept that form. And then here's the key. After they accept the form, they have to offer equal accommodation for you in the workplace, which means they cannot create a hostile work environment. They cannot create a segregated work environment. And if they do that, or if they try to pressure you to quit, or if they terminate you, you now have a significant case for wrongful termination or hostile workplace based upon discriminatory practices. And that's where you take this. You don't take this down a moral road. You take this down a civil rights road, because that's what's being affected right here, are civil rights. And we've seen this case work. We've seen this process work, Jonathan. I had a nurse who got together 300 of her colleagues at a hospital, and they pushed back. They said, no, we're not going to accept the mandates. You have to fulfill informed consent. They sent the questions in. The employer couldn't answer them. So then they all submitted their religious exemptions, and the employer was forced to accept them, and came back and said, well, now you're going to have to submit to PCR testing weekly. And they said, nope, we're not doing that either. If you're going to try to do that, then you have to acknowledge natural adaptive immunity. All of us have antibodies at this point. We can prove it. And then, so that's where they left off. The hospital had to acknowledge the natural adaptive immunity and back down. And we saw this happen just today again in a hospital system in Michigan. Same thing, where they were forced to acknowledge natural immunity established from previous infections. So, what we're seeing, Jonathan, is if people who draw the line in the sand and push back are winning. You just have to have the courage to be able to do it. We're seeing some hospitals not accept religious exemptions as well, but in my opinion, in those cases, they didn't set it up by trying to establish informed consent first. And I think that's a really key piece. Get your employer to establish informed consent first.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Ealy, I feel like there should be a time when we do a specific interview on this, and maybe call in some of those examples and pull up the documents. I don't know if you'd be willing to do that, but...
Yeah, we can do that. Let me get the covidcon21.com site up and really rolling, and then we can work off of that.
Exactly. And then we can push people in that direction, say, here's the resource, guys. And that's lovely. That's exciting.
Yeah.
What a great answer. What a great resource. And guys, if you're feeling the love there, let Dr. Ealy know here in the comments.